Hello, my name is Oliver. Today, I want to share a story from my early childhood. It was a time when I struggled to get along with my classmates, often being ridiculed and insulted by them. Their taunts made me feel weak and unable to stand up for myself. My father, frustrated with my situation, would often call me a coward. Seeing how disrespected I was by my peers, I made a promise to myself to change and prove to everyone that I was worth more than they thought. One day at recess, my classmates got together and started whispering amongst themselves. Intrigued by their secretive conversation, curiosity surged within me. Approaching them, I turned to Billy, one of my classmates, and asked, "What are you all whispering about?" He replied, "We're planning to go out tonight, but it's unlikely you'll be joining us. You don't seem to have the guts." An unpleasant feeling washed over me, and I began to argue, "Why can't I come with you? If you take me, I'd love to join." James, another classmate, interjected, "Tonight, we are going to an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. If you want to come along, show some courage." "I'm brave enough," I said confidently. "Then we'll meet at the abandoned house at nightfall," James smirked. When the school day came to an end, we gathered at the gates of the abandoned house. Under the cover of darkness and the faint moonlight, the two-story house loomed eerily, its dilapidated facade creating an atmosphere of mystery and intrigue. Legend had it that this house was cursed. It had once been the home of the seemingly ordinary Atkins family. However, one fateful night, tragedy struck. An unknown maniac ruthlessly took the lives of the entire family. After this incident, strange events and unexplained phenomena began to occur in the house. Whispers of ghosts and chilling echoes of ghostly screams and cries haunted the night. As we explored the house, we came to a locked door. Billy tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. James gave it a try, but to no avail. Realizing we needed a key, Billy suggested we climb up to the attic. A ladder was nearby, and we quickly set it up with the help of the others. However, the ladder was a bit short and barely reached the edge of the roof. All eyes turned to me, filled with anticipation. They asked, "James, who among us is the bravest?" James challenged, "Come on, get up there or admit you're scared." Unsure of what to do, I hesitated. Should I climb up to the attic or forever be labeled a coward? Gathering my courage, I declared, "I'm not a coward, and I'm not afraid." With determination, I began to climb the ladder. The roof of the house was steep, and the ladder barely reached its edge. The entrance to the attic was even higher. With all my effort, I managed to climb up, but looking back, I realized that going back down the ladder would be impossible. As I reached the attic, ready to invite my companions to join me, James unexpectedly threw the ladder aside, causing it to collapse to the floor. He met my gaze with a cold stare and said, "Good night, Oliver." The group burst into laughter, one by one dispersing, leaving me alone with a sense of betrayal and confusion. I was engulfed in a state of moral despair, feeling as though a part of me had died. The weight of betrayal burdened my heart. The realization that they had orchestrated this entire event to bully and belittle me left me berating myself for falling into their trap like a fool. When I came to my senses, I looked around and saw that darkness was enveloping me. There was a faint ray of moonlight through the gaps in the roof that gave me hope. It wasn't enough to see, but it gave me the determination to find a way out. I questioned myself as I considered my next steps. The first thing was to get out of here, and to do that I needed to find the entrance to the building. I started fumbling my way around, navigating carefully in the darkness. Suddenly my hand bumped into something soft, causing a flurry of movement and a cloud of dust to billow over my face. I realized I had scared off a group of pigeons. Shaking off my surprise, I continued my search without giving up hope. Finally, my fingers found the hook, and I instinctively pulled it. The hatch creaked open, making a rattling sound that echoed through the room. A flicker of hope flickered in my soul. The possibility of escape was real. I looked down, straining my eyes to make out details in the darkness below. Miraculously, I could make out the faint outline of a half-lit room, which gave me a target to jump from the attic. I got to my feet and grasped the ceiling, gathering the courage to leap. I lunged forward, feeling the adrenaline rush as I soared through the air. To my relief, I landed successfully and my feet were on the hard pitch of the room. Taking a breath, I took a close look at my new surroundings. The room was plunged into pitch darkness, and I had to rely on my other senses to orient myself. Any sound was amplified in the silence, forcing me to strain my hearing in hopes of finding any sign of what lay ahead. But the only sound that came to my ears was the sound of my own heart pounding frantically in my chest. Ignoring the lack of auditory cues, I stretched out my arms, gingerly fumbling my way across the room. It wasn't long before my fingertips touched the railing, a reassuring sign that there was a way forward. As I descended the stairs, the atmosphere grew colder and the air heavier and heavier from the eerie stillness. Each step echoed in the empty house, adding to the sense of isolation and dread. Shadows danced on the walls as if they were alive, whispering secrets I could not fathom. The hallway stretched before me, dimly lit by the moonlight filtering through the slits in the windows. The floorboards creaked under my weight, as if warning me of a presence lurking in the darkness. A chill ran down my spine, my senses sharpened, and I beak of the walls seemed to close around me as I went deeper into the house, pressing against my chest and squeezing the air out of my lungs. Only the distant sound of the door opening broke the oppressive silence, sending shivers down my spine. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I followed the sound, drawn by an inexplicable force. I entered a room flooded with unnatural light, the moonlight casting an unearthly glow on the tattered furniture and faded wallpaper. There was a heavy smell of decay in the air, a nauseating mixture of mold and decay that made my ears pop. The room seemed frozen in time, like an eternal nightmare. My heart thudded in my chest when I noticed a figure huddled in the corner with his back turned to me. A shiver ran down my spine as I cautiously approached, the floor creaking beneath my feet. I called out, my voice shaking with fear, but there was no response. The figure remained motionless, its presence ghostly. As I reached out to touch the figure, a gust of wind swept through the room and extinguished the flickering candle on the table. In the darkness, I felt a cold hand grab my wrist, squeezing it like a vice. Panic surged through my veins, and I tried to pull free, but the grip only strengthened. Whispers filled the room, echoing in my ears like a chorus of tortured souls. Shadows danced and twisted, taking grotesque shapes that sent waves of terror through my body. I felt the presence of some invisible force that threatened to swallow me whole. In a fit of despair, I wrenched my hand away and, gasping for breath, drew back. The figure in the corner remained motionless, its presence looming over me like a terrifying ghost. I turned and ran, the house groaning in protest as I raced through its corridors, desperate to escape the clutches of the unknown. Finally, I burst through the front door, and the night air hit me like a wave of relief. I collapsed to the floor, panting, my heart pounding in my chest. As I looked back at the abandoned house, I felt that it still held a grudge, a reminder of the horrors I had faced. From that day on, I was haunted by the memories of that night, the whispers in the dark and the chilling touch of the unknown. The experience had changed me, leaving behind a lingering fear that I could not shake off. But in the midst of this terror, I found strength, determination to face the darkness. When I escaped the clutches of that cursed house, a new resolve surged within me. I made a solemn vow never again to let fear dictate my life. I would no longer cowardly face the darkness, but rather confront it and prove to myself and the world that I had rid myself of the label of coward. The ominous energy that enveloped the house was still lingering in my mind, but I didn't let it overwhelm me.